This is Harry Murray at Murray's Fly Shop in Edinburgh, Virginia. Let's talk about the trout fishing in the Shenandoah National Park for the native brook trout. We're going to see how we fish this in May, some of the insects that we're going to cover, the tactics we're going to use. The reason I like to do this, May can be one of the finest months of the year to fish for the wild brookies in the park. The fly you see on the left here is the natural sulfur mayfly, which hatches very heavily in the park at this time of the year. This is the dun which hatches from noon until dark. The spinner comes back to lay eggs and deposit them on the stream the last 2 hours of the evening. So the last 2 hours of the day you have this dun coming off, you have the spinners coming back, and I have actually seen some pools, some long pools that would have as many as 12 trout rising on their individual feeding station. And these are all wild trout. The fly you see on the right is the Murray sulfur dry fly, and that's what we use to match this. It matches both the duns and the spinners, and we do fish that on 6X. This pool in front of my fishing buddy William Downey is an excellent pool in which you would find several different trout rising to the sulfur mayflies. You'll note Mr. Downey is staying well below the lip of that pool so he doesn't scare them. Now, he is watching for rising trout, and if he doesn't see rising trout, he is going to cover the water. Now, right in front of this boulder right here, there is bound to be several trout rising. That's where a lot of the food drifts in. Mr. Downey is probably going to catch 1 or 2 trout right in front of that pool. Now he'll release those real gently right where he's standing. Now his next cast would be up into this area right here. There's a good current coming around the boulder there, and that would carry the duns very well, and he could probably pick up another trout or 2 right there. After he releases those very gently, he's going to make a slackline cast up into the head of the pool right here. That's going to drift on down through this current and cut around through there, and he's going to pick up at least 1 or 2 more trout up in there. That is an excellent pool, and remember now, these flies are at their heaviest the last 2 hours of the day, with the duns coming off and the spinners coming back. A pool like that, in fact, it looked like a carbon copy of that. I saw 12 trout rising in that one pool just before dark. The photo on the left is the nymph of the little Yellowstone fly. It's about 1/4 of an inch long. We match it with a size 16 fly. In fact, the fly on the right is a size 16 Murray's little Yellowstone fly. They are very prevalent in our mountain streams, on the mossy covered rocks, and in the leaves in the back eddy. Now, this makes them very fragile and susceptible to periods of high water. High water will rip that moss. It'll destroy those eggs in the back eddies. But we haven't had that this year, and I really suspect we will have wonderful hatches of this. This is the adult of the little Yellowstone fly that we were looking at. He is very, very susceptible to choppy type water on the stream. He really basically doesn't taxi very well along the surface of the stream, and he looks sort of clumsy in the air. However, the trout feed very, very heavily on him. The dry fly you see on the right is the Murray's little Yellowstone fly. That's a size 16, fish them on 6X. What really turns me on to this fly, which we had last year, and I fully believe we'll have it this year, is that there are so many of them. I was sitting beside one little trout stream last year, and there were so many of these coming off, drifting down through the pool toward me. I actually just stopped fishing to watch the little duns coming down along the stream. They'd fly up. In fact, some of them sat on the tree right beside where I was sitting. But that is a wonderful fly that fishermen are really going to get good action with that this year. This is a pool that would be outstanding with little Yellowstone flies in it. The moss that you see right along that left-hand side, the nymphs are really thick below that water level, and this angler would run his dry fly or nymph, either one, right along through there and probably pick up at least 2 trout. Now he's going to move over to this far side. There again, you see where all that moss is? That's where he's going to pick up at least 1 more trout and maybe 2, because they're in there working on the emerging insects and they're working on the nymphs. After he catches those, he's going to move on up to the head of that pool. Again, look at that moss. That's where those nymphs are. He's going to catch at least 1, maybe 2, possibly 3. But that's the kind of pool you would expect to find real good fishing with the little stonefly dry fly or the stonefly nymph. Several years ago, a number of our anglers asked me to develop a leader for the trout fishing in our mountain stream. We came up with this, which is a 6-foot leader, compound knotted taper that does incorporate the Murray indicator on there. These we're using at this time of the year for 6X. All the flies we're talking about cast better on 6X. This throws a nice tight loop and gives almost teacup accuracy in these mountain streams. This is the book that I wrote on the Shenandoah National Park at the request of one of the fisheries officials in the Shenandoah National Park. It covers all of the major streams that we have in the park, how to find these streams, where to park your car, the trails to follow down into the stream. It has hatch charts that cover all of the aquatic insects that are hatching in the park, and also shows the artificial flies that we use to match that. There's one chapter in there that I particularly like called Reading the Water. That will show you the tactics, the way we approach the stream, the tactics we use on a slackline cast, anything that improves our fishing as we work our way up these streams. I feel this is very useful in learning to handle the Shenandoah National Park.